The most striking truth about the cognitive reset ritual is that the most effective way to reclaim your mind is not through a massive epiphany, but through the microscopic regulation of your own daily decisions. We generally assume that breaking free from years of mind games requires a dramatic confrontation, but in reality, the hardest part is often quieting the voice you've been trained to hear inside your own head. Why does the person who influenced you often stay in your thoughts long after they've left the room? This is the core paradox of the cognitive reset. The moment you realize that your own brain has been conditioned to do the manipulator's work for you.
And that's the part that's, well, it's pretty unsettling, isn't it? It's this quiet but powerful realization that the cage isn't external anymore. Its blueprint has been installed inside of you. The whole system is designed to just keep running on its own, long after the person who built it is gone.
So why does that voice stick around? Well, it's because the influence was never just about someone being physically present. Nope, it was about installing a system, a whole way of thinking that just perpetuates itself. So let's dive into exactly how that system works, and more importantly, how we can start to dismantle it.
Okay, so we're going to start by really understanding this idea of the internalized controller. Think of it like a ghost, as the source material calls it, that you carry with you. And it's not just a memory, it's an active, critical voice that can feel so much like your own, constantly evaluating your choices and enforcing all those old rules.
You know, the software analogy here is absolutely key. And look, this isn't some personal failing or a flaw in your character. Not at all. In these high-pressure environments, whether it's a controlling relationship or a really demanding job, these mind games literally act like a program installed in your brain to wear down your judgment and make sure you comply. And that software just runs quietly in the background, shaping how you react long after you've left that place.
So, how exactly is this cage built? To get that, we need to look at the brain's architecture itself. This isn't just some abstract psychological idea. It's actually rooted in the biology of how our brains learn to adapt and survive.
At the very heart of all this is a process called self-directed neuroplasticity. Now, put simply, it's just the brain's incredible ability to physically change its own wiring based on what we think and do over and over again. Of course, this is a double-edged sword. It's the very same mechanism that lets someone else condition your thinking. But, and this is the hopeful part, it's also the exact tool you're going to use to reclaim your own mind through new intentional habits.
One of the most common symptoms of this conditioning is something called dependency residue. Have you ever felt this? You go to make a simple choice all by yourself, and suddenly this wave of anxiety or this sudden, urgent need for permission just washes over you? That's it. That's not you. That's the echo of a system where your ability to even know what you wanted was systematically shut down. And this slide? It illustrates the journey perfectly. You're moving from an assigned identity over on the left to becoming a sovereign subject on the right. With that assigned identity, you're always looking for external permission. You're focused on just surviving the rules, and you might even feel what some researchers call a self-erasure effect, where your own preferences just kind of become invisible, even to you. The goal is to move to the right, to build that internal locus of control, to start identifying what you actually need, and to practice what's called personal agency. So, how do we actually make that journey? How do we get from one side to the other? Well, the answer is in a really tangible three-step process designed to systematically take apart that conditioned cage and help you reclaim your thinking.
The whole ritual has three core parts. First up is the diagnostic audit. That's all about awareness. Then you've got agency microdosing. That's all about practice. And finally, there's the biological anchor, which is about grounding that new practice in your physical reality. Let's break each of these down.
All right, step one, the diagnostic audit. This starts with a simple but incredibly profound action, thinking about your thinking. You start to really listen to your inner monologue and label the thoughts as they come up. You ask yourself, is this my voice? Or is this that residual voice, that echo from the past? People who do this say that just creating that label, just putting that little bit of distance there, dramatically reduces the thought's emotional grip. It turns a command into a simple observation.
Next up is agency microdosing. Now think of your self-trust like a muscle. After years of always looking for external validation, that muscle gets weak. So this step is about rebuilding it, one tiny little rep at a time. The choices themselves can seem totally insignificant. What you eat for lunch, what shirt you put on, what music you listen to. The key isn't the choice, it's the conscious act of making it for you and then owning it without asking or needing anyone else's approval. You're basically training your brain that your own agency is both safe and normal.
And finally, step 3 is the biological anchor. This is where we go beyond just thoughts and actions and start talking directly to the nervous system. When that old fear trigger pops up, that jolt of panic from the dependency residue, you interrupt it with a physical action that you've planned ahead of time. It could be pressing your feet firmly on the floor, touching a specific object, or just taking one slow, deliberate breath. What you're doing is sending a direct biological signal to your brain that says, the threat you're remembering is in the past. I am safe right here, right now. You are literally replacing an old fear pathway with a new one for safety.
So now that we have the how, let's dig into the why. What's really going to power this whole reset? Well, it involves a deep psychological shift in the fundamental question that's driving your actions every day. It's about totally changing your core motivation.
Over on the left, you see the mindset of the cage of fear. It's driven by a fear of being rejected or punished. It values keeping the peace way more than speaking your truth. And that little question in the back of your head is always, am I doing this right? It's always looking for approval. But the mindset of sovereignty on the right, that's fueled by something totally different. Reclaiming your autonomy through intentional inconsistency. Actively breaking out of those old assigned roles. If you are always the quiet one, you practice speaking up. The core question shifts from, am I doing this right? To what do I need right now? And that is a radical reorientation towards your own internal world.
Okay, let's get super practical now. We've talked about the mechanism, so what are the everyday tools? How do you actually reinforce these new neural pathways and make this something that sticks?
So this is a really concrete version of that diagnostic audit we talked about earlier. When a really strong internal criticism pops into your head, you can mentally run it through this little filter. So take that first one, I can't do this on my own. You just stop and ask, is that a fact or is that a recording of something I was told again and again? It's a recording. Is it my original thought or is it a residual program? It's residual. See? That simple analysis just drains the criticism of all its power. It's not some objective truth, it's just old code run.
And all of this leads to what the source material calls Autonomy Priming Awareness. It's really the practice of recognizing that you're chronic second-guessing. It isn't who you are. It's a learned symptom of past conditioning. And when you see it that way, you can start to celebrate those small acts of independence without feeling guilty. You can reframe that self-doubt when it shows up. It's not a sign that you're failing. It's a sign that the old software is trying to reboot. And you are the one in control now.
And that brings us to our conclusion, to the core takeaway of this entire process. The ultimate authority over your internal world belongs to you and only you. So let's kind of shift our whole perspective. This isn't about reaching some finish line called healed. It's about the daily, moment-by-moment practice of choosing yourself, of asking, what do I need, and then actually honoring the answer. Every small choice is a vote for your own sovereignty. This is such a powerful way to reframe things. The next time that feeling of doubt or not being good enough washes over you, instead of taking it as a true measure of who you are right now, see it for what it really is, an echo. It's just a piece of data about pressure you were under in the past, not a reflection of the reality you live in today.
Your mind is your private territory. The cognitive reset ritual, when you boil it all down, is a declaration of ownership. It's the whole process of finding the keys, changing the locks, and finally, truly understanding that you are the only one authorized to define your reality.